Welcome to the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Pluff. Each week, we will cover various topics that dads struggle with in their fitness journey. I'll give you actionable steps that you can apply right away, not only to take back control of your own health, but so you're able to be a better example for your kids too. One of the coolest things about the world we live in now is that you can literally get better at anything you want to almost as quickly as you want to, right? We have so much information. We have self-help books like galore, right? You can get caught up into it. And to be honest, I fall into that trap a lot of times too. I'll read a book and then I mark it off. I think about it for a couple of days and then I go to the next book, right? And I think sometimes instead of applying what we know, we just always are looking for more. We're always finding that next thing that's going to be a little bit better. And so then we feel like we're not making a lot of progress because it's not that we're not learning, we're just not applying it. And if we have all this knowledge, but we don't do anything, then to be honest, we wasted our time, right? You wasted your time if you're going to spend all these times reading books, learning new things, and then not applying it. But I think your intentions matter. And so I think we live in a world right now where I think dads are probably, I think it's safe to say, we are the most hands-on of any generation ever, right? Our dads were raised by their dads, and your grandpa, my grandpa, most of them are pretty hands-off, right? And so if you're raised by somebody who's hands-off, the next generation is probably going to be a little bit more hands-on, right? We sometimes, the next generation, your kids, you like to kind of make up for things that maybe you didn't receive as a kid. And so they're going to be a little bit more hands-on. And then now you get to us and we're even better, right? And our hope is that our kids are going to be even better than us. And so I think it's a really cool thing as to where in the world we're living at right now, because we have so many resources, right? We have so many resources to get better and to continue improving. But I think it can also be really frustrating, right? Because I know for me, since my son was born, since my oldest was born, about a little over 4 years ago, I have made like a complete shift in so many things I do. I was just talking to my wife this morning. I was sitting at a pond, watching the sun come up, and I had already been up for an hour when I was sitting there. And I was like, if I would have told you when we were married that I would be up, that early every single day, like you wouldn't have believed me. Like that's just not, that's not who I was. And just looking back, I think it's pretty cool how much we can grow. We think we're not able to do something, things we're trying to accomplish, things we're trying to achieve seem so far out of reach because it's really hard to picture it, right? It's hard to envision a different future. But when you measure yourself backwards, when you look back, think of all the transformations you had to go through to get to this point right now. And I think, as a dad, it's really hard because sometimes I think my wife and I we had 3 kids very early. We were young. We were married. We were only married for 2 years before our son was born. And so we really didn't really have a lot of time just for us, right? We were in college. We got married after we graduated, and then we were married in grad school. As soon as we finished grad school, we were pregnant shortly after, and so we really never had a lot of time by ourselves, and we never really had a lot of time like to accumulate wealth or anything. So there's always that thought in my head, like, well, if I would have waited a little bit to have kids, if we would have waited, we could have put more money towards this, and maybe we wouldn't have struggled so much financially early on and things like this. And but at the same time, the other side of me thinks, this is really awesome, right? I've got 3 kids before I was 30 years old, and they all get to see me grow. They get to see me grow as a dad. They get to see me grow as a husband. They get to see me grow as a man. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And so if you've had kids young and you're having trouble, kind of understanding why, maybe you could be further ahead in your career, in other areas, but they get to see you grow, right? And I think that's important, right? I don't want to be a final product. I never want to be a final product. I want to always be growing, and I think it's cool to be able to experience all that with my kids. And to kind of bring it back here to what I was talking about with like the self-help and everything, like I want to continue to do better. I want to be better. I feel like I owe that to my kids, because I know there were things that, you can get caught up, kind of in that victim mentality, thinking back like, well, my dad didn't do this, or my mom didn't do that, and the reason I am the way I am is because of this. And that may be true, but that's not helping anybody, right? That's not going to help you, right? You can tell yourself that all the time, or you can do something about it. And that's kind of the mindset I've decided to adopt. It's honestly probably not a mindset I have always had, right? There are things I struggled with, things I didn't like about who I was, about my life, and I blamed it on other things, and that did nothing except make me feel worse. And so, but the cool thing is, we all have that choice. We all can make that decision to just be a little better, right? Be a little better all the time. And so, my goal is, just to continue to get better every day, right? Obviously, there's going to be days where things don't go the way I want to, but as long as I keep showing up, I keep trying, right? Sometimes you're gonna put in a good day's work, you're gonna get to the end of the day, you're gonna feel like you didn't accomplish much, but tomorrow you're gonna show back up and do it again. You're always gonna keep trying. Ed Milet in his book talks about one more try, right? No matter what happened today, just show up tomorrow, continue to get better. And so, that this morning, like I said, I was thinking about that as I was sitting here watching the sun come up at a pond, right? I was like, this is incredible, right? I get up very early every single morning now, kind of have a morning routine, and then kind of work on some things before the kids get up. But went on a walk this morning, and I was just like, this is kind of unreal. You think you're not making progress, but then you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is pretty crazy. And just think about where you were. Think about where you were when you first got married. Think about where you were when your first kid was born. Think about where you were when your second kid was born, right? Like you're a completely different person all the time, and you're always growing. Everything compounds, right? One of my favorite books is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Like everything compounds, everything is either working for you or against you, right? Like every good decision you make is going to compound if you let it. Every bad decision you make is going to compound if you let it. But you have the power to choose. You have the power to do something different. And so, taking control of your health, taking control of your fitness, your nutrition, all these things compound for you or against you, right? You can start working out now. It's not going to do much. You look back in a week, it's not going to be much different. If you look back in a month, yeah, you'll start to see some progress, but still not a lot. But do that for a year, you're not going to recognize yourself, right? Do that for 5 years, you're going to have no idea who that other person was. You're not even going to be able to identify with them anymore. And sometimes we always measure ourselves against our ideal, right? But I know I've talked about this before. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan have a book called The Gap and the Gain, always measuring backwards. And that's something I've tried to adopt. I have the book. I have the audiobook of that one. That's something my wife read it as well. I thought it was so good. I bought I'm more of an audiobook. I like to read. I'm not a very quick reader. And so sometimes I will, if I find an audiobook I really enjoy and it's worth coming back to, I will also buy the hard copy as well. And I bought the hard copy, because, I wanted my wife to read it because I thought it was a good one, and she can go through a book in like a day. So yeah, she read that one, and so that's one we really enjoy, and it helps us, as parents as well, not measuring our kids by who we think they should be or where they should be at, but just measuring how far they've come. And that's definitely helped a lot with perspective. But just a quick side note here: one of the reasons I always buy, if I find an audiobook I really enjoy, I will always buy the hard copy. A lot of times I try and read the hard copy first. I read. Like I said, I'm not a very fast reader, but reading is something I do enjoy, and so I do read almost every single day. And so I have a ton of books I still got to get through. But if I find an audiobook that I really enjoy, I will buy the hard copy and I will put it on my bookshelf. And I may never actually read that copy, but kind of like what we talked about here, like always improving, having our kids see us grow. Someday I'm going to be gone. That's a kind of a hard thought to think about, but someday I'm not going to be here. But what I want to leave behind is kind of a collection of books um, that my kids can look through that have helped me get to this point in my life, that helped me kind of continue to grow, continue to be a better dad, continue to be a better husband, continue to be just a better person overall. And so if there's a book that has really meant something to me, or I've found it valuable enough to listen to multiple times, then I will buy the hard copy to make sure that is on my shelf. Because my guess is when my time has come and I'm no longer here, that uh, most people probably aren't going to be looking through my Audible library on the apps on my phone. And so, but my bookshelf will still be there. And so hopefully that will have an impact on them. And as they get older and start to read on their own, they can grab something off the shelf as well, if that's something they choose to do. So just a quick side note there. But I think self improvement is really important. Like I said, I could sit here and all day talk about different self help books. I love the genre. I love always getting better. I love just kind of putting in that 1%. But I am just as guilty as everybody else. I am just as guilty. Just jumping from book to book to book to book and never actually applying what I'm learning, right? There are multiple books I've gone through. And I thought, wow, like that is some groundbreaking stuff. That is incredible. And then I do nothing with it. I jump to the next book. I don't think about it much. And so that's one thing I've been trying to do. One thing that someone, I don't know who to give credit to, but I know a lot of people probably do this, but somebody said too, just like, be okay stopping books. I know a lot of times I would get kind of where I felt like I needed to read the whole book, but sometimes just jumping around. I have an audiobook I was listening to recently, and they kind of set it up in a way where you could kind of jump around to different parts. And so that's what I did. I found some different areas in it that I thought, hey, that seems fun to kind of learn about. I'll learn about that topic. If I find value in it, I jump to another section and stuff. And so I've been, part of my morning routine is reading every single morning. And so books that I have found valuable so far this year, I'm going back through. And so a lot of times, like I said, I will have the audiobook version and the hard copy, and so I can read it, I can listen to it, and I get something different out of it every single time. So, but I think we should always be trying to get better, right? Like I have goals I want to achieve. I have business goals. I have goals for my kids, that I want to be able to do to help kind of give them a better life. But ultimately, my goal is just to get better, just to be better all the time. And I think your intentions matter, right? You may not reach every single goal that you set for yourself, but if you set enough of them, you're going to hit a lot more, right? The more goals you set, the more goals you're going to achieve. Sounds simple, but people don't think about it that way. People a lot of times set 2 to 3 goals and then they work towards it. If you hit 33% of it, doesn't feel too good because you only hit 1 out of 3 goals, right? But let's say you set 30 goals for the year or for the month or something, and you hit 10 of them. That's still 33%, but now you just hit 10 goals, right? And so you're starting to build confidence as well because you're knocking down these goals and you're making changes. And so at the end of every month, right? At the end of every month, just like we talked about, measure backwards. Don't measure where you want to be. Don't measure where you want to be. You want to lose weight, you want to lose 50 pounds. Don't measure how many pounds you still have to lose. Measure how many pounds you've lost. Measure how many workouts you've completed. Measure how many times you've showed up and had the intention to get better, right? I think I've always been fascinated with like sports psychology. It's a field that I used to want to study in school, and maybe I should have pursued it a little bit more because here I am years later and I'm still fascinated with it, with the mind. And I always believed Like if you think about like if you grew up playing sports and you had your best game, like playing basketball, you could probably remember your best basketball game you ever played, or football game, or baseball game, or soccer, or whatever you played. You can always remember your best performance, and you can always remember your worst performance, right? And they were probably like a week or two apart from each other, right? And so, what was different? Were you better at the sport? Did you get worse at the sport? No, like most of it is in your mind, right? And so, I've always been fascinated with the mind. I've always been fascinated with just how our visualization, be able to create the life that we want to, the intentions that we have. And so mindset is something that I've definitely tried to work on. I went a long time there where I didn't have a lot of confidence. I didn't have a very positive mindset, for a variety of reasons, but that's something I've been very intentional about, especially since I started having kids, right? I realized, there were some things I thought I could get over, some things I thought I could get better at, that I would just forget about, pay no attention to it. It would just get better. And they didn't. And so I realized I had to do the work. I had to put in the work to get better. Seek help, have have someone help you out, and then be intentional about it every day. Like you could be a positive person, but your mindset is something that you have to continue to work. Right? If you are somebody who weightlifts regularly and you take a week off, no big deal, right? No big deal. You're not going to lose that much strength. You're probably not going to lose any strength, right? Let that trickle into 2 weeks. You'll start to lose a little bit. Let it go into a month. It's going to take a little bit to get back into it, right? And so the mind is no different. Your mind is a muscle. You got to work it. You want it to be better. You want it to work for you. You have to put in the work. And so part of my morning routine every single day is the books that I'm reading. A lot of them have to do with how I'm thinking, right? Visualization, affirmations, things like that. It's more just like self talk. How are you treating yourself? Right? You spend every single day with yourself. Um, the things you say to yourself about yourself, they matter. They matter, and how you view yourself, how you talk about yourself, not only affects you, but it's going to affect your son. It's going to affect your daughter. It's going to affect your wife. It's going to affect the people you work with. And so spend time every day working on your mindset. I think it's something that is not talked about enough. I know it's talked about a lot, and depending on what circles you follow or people you follow online or anything, but something I think is super important. And I think it's the biggest reason why some people have a lot of success and others don't. It's their belief in their self. And the people who succeed in whatever it may be, in business, you know in fitness, and whatever they're trying to accomplish, doesn't mean that they're never like fearful, doesn't mean that they're never scared to do something, but they do it anyway, right? They do it anyway because they know that if you do it scared and you continue to do it, you continue to show up, life gets better. Life gets better, right? It's never as bad as you think it's going to be, right? One of my favorite quotes is, if if you can keep the promises you make to yourself, your life is going to change. And I have no idea who said that. I've heard it multiple times from different places. I can't even think of somebody who I can contribute it to right now. But that I paraphrase that, but that's something that runs in my mind all the time. Make a list of things I got to do each day, and then do them. It's that simple. It's that simple. And most of us break the first promise that we have made with each other every single day. We hit the snooze button. It doesn't seem like much. You set your alarm for 5:30. You decide to not get up till 6:30. Doesn't seem like much. You got an extra hour of sleep. You might be more well rested, but your confidence is going to go down a little bit. Maybe not at first. You may not even realize it, but we can't get up when we're supposed to. Then maybe we don't do the workout that we were supposed to. Then maybe we planned our lunch for the day and we decide, no big deal. Then that could trickle down to I told my son I'd play catch with him after, but I gotta finish this stuff for work. So there's all this stuff that kind of trickles because of that. And so don't press snooze. Don't press snooze. It sounds simple. Like I just cut from explaining that to don't press snooze, right? But it's that simple. Just keep the promises you make to yourself. I promise you, if you can do that, your life's going to get a heck of a lot better, right? And so don't press snooze. Wake up each day, set your alarm, be intentional with it. You're going to get up. If that's 6:30, if that's the time you're getting up, okay, like no worries. If you're not getting up an hour before you need to, no worries. Just keep the promise you're making to yourself, right? If your goal is to go for a 20-minute walk, do the 20-minute walk. If you're going to work out today, work out today. If you were going to read a devotion with your wife or take your kids to a movie, do that. Whatever it is you say you're going to do, just do it. Because you're not only going to gain respect with yourself, but with your family as well. But you're going to start to build confidence, and then you're going to start to be able to tackle bigger challenges, right? If you're somebody right now who knows they need to get in shape, who knows they need to start working out, who knows they need to start getting to eating a little better, but you can't find the motivation to do it, it's probably because you have no belief in yourself. But I know you can do it, because look at all the stuff you've done in the past. Look back on all the things you've accomplished, right? You've gotten to this point. You've gotten through whatever it is that you've gone through in the past. I know you want to be better, right? Nobody wants to stay. If somebody offered you to trade your life right now before your kids were born, would you take it? Of course not. Your life is so much better now, right? And it's going to continue to get better if you're intentional, right? But like we talked about, everything compounds. Everything compounds for you or against you. And so like I said, I believe that we live in a world right now where dads are the most intentional they've ever been. And my hope is that our son's generation, our daughter's generation, will be even more intentional than us. They will be better than us. That is my hope. But it starts with us, right? You could have had a really great dad, and then maybe there are certain things that maybe you didn't work on, you didn't pass down. My hope is that every single generation continues to get better, but unfortunately that's not the case, because you have to be intentional, right? There are so many resources now. On how to get better, how to be a better dad, how to be a better husband, how to lose weight, how to improve your mindset, how to get help, how to seek therapy, all these things. We are literally a search bar away from figuring out whatever we want to. There's no reason why you can't accomplish what you need to, but we have to be intentional. We have to continue trying to get better. That concludes this episode of the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. Thank you for those of you who took time out of your busy schedules to listen. If you have any questions or comments or an idea for a topic for a future episode, please feel free to reach out, and I'd love to hear from you.